Hi, how are you? Good to
Doing
see you
well,
again.
thank you.
John Patrick Donegan, who's also from the Cranston Action Network. You know, I'm not even sure how we're doing on time. This is you get lost in the conversation here. You
It
can
was a
tell.
great conversation.
What were your motivations for getting involved in the Cranston Action Network?
So after the election, like many other people in the network, we were a little dismayed, surprised,
Appalled.
fearful, but ready to get involved. I think I'm in my late 20s now. I've always wanted to get involved. This was the catalyst to do it. I remember meeting outside for a Resist Hate RI meeting that winter. I think it was in January, right before the inauguration, and we gathered outside of Hope High School, went over some issues, and said, Cranston's kind of an important city. There's some elected officials in some high places, and we have an opportunity to make some serious change if we can kind of work together and see what we can do. And so that's what we did, and we've had some successes.
Right, and so this was really, the Action Network was really born out of a spirit of a desire to cooperate and work together.
Absolutely.
It was not meant to be adversarial, but at the same time, you're certainly not going to step back or away from what you believe is what is right.
Correct.
So if they challenge you overtly, you will accept the challenge and in return, in good favor.
Absolutely, and I think what was touched on earlier, something like the Doric Park dilemma. Public space is such an important thing in the urban environment. Those green spaces play such an important role in the upbringing of our community, in the interactions, the dialogues. It's an important place. We saw the city of Cranston getting ready to take away that space, and we were ready to call them out on it. And I think we had a great success in halting the city from doing that. I will say, temporarily though, because I know Mayor Fung has said in the past that he's open to doing it somewhere else in the city.
Right, but in a sense, you guys have been emboldened by your success, and you've established your presence now.
Absolutely.
As a viable alternative to the madness that seems to be infecting Cranston city government. Because you welcome people of all political backgrounds, right? I mean,
Of course.
This is really more about Cranston than it is about political labels.
Right. We have people that proudly don Bernie Sanders T-shirts to people that ran as Republicans for General Assembly seats. It's a group that spans political interests, social, economic. We're a diverse group of people, and I think we really represent Cranston well, and we're looking to do that going forward.
Now, there's an irony here, because essentially what you're doing is you're becoming really, and I don't want to use shadow, I don't mean that to be a pejorative, but in a very real sense, you're becoming a shadow government. I mean, you've made those initial steps today. You're doing and acting in a manner that the city council is supposed to.
We try to reflect the character of our city. Something that with the panhandling ordinance, they're clearly not doing. I think it goes against the very morals of our community.
There's the panhandling, the fishing, just the overall, the police department issues.
Right.
There's a track record now.
There is. And he's going to be running for governor next year.
Interesting. We spoke offline, and it's clear in our conversations that fundamental rights and wrongs are very important to you.
Yes.
Reflect, if you will, the impact of criminalizing the life-saving attempts. When I talk about the visibly poor, they have to engage in behavior that many of us are fortunate not to.
Right.
And so that behavior to them is really necessary to get through the day. How outrageous is it to attempt to criminalize that?
Like you said, it is outrageous, and I think it's wrong. When I spoke at City Council, in front of City Council, the night they voted on it, I said, this isn't, first of all, is this the story we want to tell about our city? Is this who we want people to think this city is about? We ostracize, demonize the most vulnerable members of our community. I think that this ordinance is so against that. I'm privileged enough where I don't need to stand out and ask for money. There are others that aren't as fortunate. At no time do I think that we should take away their right. It is a right to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
It is both a constitutional right, which the courts have continuously upheld, making it even more questionable why the city would want to go through with this and take it, quote, to the Supreme Court. But it's a moral right. Do we want to live in a society where it's wrong to ask for help, where it's wrong to give help? So from that angle, in terms of the homeless issue, I think it's wrong. Then you start to think about, well, politicians leafleting. There are issues, people leafleting.
Mm-hmm.
It's restricting conversations, it's restricting dialogue, and I think it's hurting democracy. Democracy is a messy thing. It's something that's necessary for these conversations to go and continue, and I think it really, it not only hurts our community morally and constitutionally, it's bad for democracy.
Right. Because ultimately, if you're not willing to advance your argument aggressively, which can mean civil disobedience, folks aren't coming to you and just saying, hey, we'll give you an open ear. Just tell us what you're thinking. That's not happening.
No.
You have to force the issue, don't you?
Especially, we do, and especially when we know that some members of the city council and the mayor had the ear of some big business developers in the
Mm-hmm.
area. Councilman Farina received a $1,000 donation 8 days before the council voted on it from the head of the development group
Mm-hmm.
of Chapel View. To me, this issue, this panhandling ordinance, has always been about
Right.
keeping the visibly poor out of that area to further development, to please those developers and the people going about there. We need to do these things to get their attention, and I think we have.
No, and that's a plague that's happening across Rhode Island. Here in Providence, a former mayor of the city of Providence attempted to enact a smoking ban downtown. Now, again, I'm a civil libertarian, or I try to be. There are professionals at it, and then there's amateurs.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert. I literally play one on the radio. The smoking bans, you're taking a product that is legal, for which the government profits greatly, and then you're attempting to restrict its legal consumption. And why are you doing it? Because again, you're looking to segregate, and I'll use the word, and I'll use this word out of a 1940 sense. There were forces in Europe at work that attempted to create what they call ghettos. And ghettos were groups of people who shared a behavior. We try to do the same thing with the visibly poor in the state.
Right.
In this case, it was downtown Providence. Interestingly enough, that former mayor did not propose a smoking ban for Federal Hill. It would have been laughed at. He did not propose a smoking ban on Thayer Street.
Nope.
It missed Wayland Square. Don't remember it either on Wickenden. Coincidentally, it was an immediate surrounding to his significant real estate investments. Again, because we want to create this pretty picture of an area, so to make it more whitewashed for retail. Long before your time, I'll play the elder citizen here, the seasoned citizen. McDonald's Corporation used to, in their commercials, before they embraced some level of diversity, they did it really out of economic force, which is, in one sense, the right way to do it. But their commercials always featured attractive young white people smiling, happy smiling behind the counters, serving fresh, healthy food. Look at a casino ad. Do you ever see desperately poor people? Elderly people? No, you see well-dressed, primarily white, affluent, upper middle class people having the time of their lives, losing whatever money they've got. That's the environment that these people, because of their investments, want to try and create because it helps sell. And again, there's this pesky thing called the Constitution, which often acts in direct contrast, if you will, to the conveniences of the connected. Damn if they could just get rid of that Constitution. And no one embodies that philosophy more than our current president. But again, we're concerned with local issues today. Do you have something you'd like to say right now? Because this is being recorded. We'll put this up on our YouTube channel. To the mayor and the city council. I mean, talk to them as if they're sitting right across from you. Well, because you're a very thoughtful young man. People like me would just be throwing grenades. What's impressive about your organization is that you guys are reasonably mature adults, and it's surrounded by people who are just nuts. So, what would you say to the mayor if he was sitting right here?
Mayor Fung, I understand. No one likes to see homelessness. No one wants to see panhandlers when they pull up to Situate Ave or by Garden City or Chapel View. We don't like seeing that. It makes us uncomfortable. It should make us uncomfortable. We should all be uncomfortable with the visual reality and the lived experiences of poverty and homelessness and the lack of affordable housing. That should make us uncomfortable. You've proposed and signed this ordinance for respect of public safety. You failed to give us any evidence of public safety. This is something that's affecting people's lives. I'm fortunate where it's not directly affecting me, but it affects others, some who spoke at the council meeting that you were at. I would say rethink this. Is the Cranston's taxpayer dollars best served fighting this, quote, to use your words, up to the U.S. Supreme Court, or perhaps paving roads, going back to the schools? I know there's a funding deficit there. There are better resources that we could put that funding towards. Not to mention, it would show a commitment on behalf of your administration to the city of Cranston, to the state, and to the world that we care about the people in our communities that are most vulnerable. And that's an administration I can get behind. So people that care about others and that care about their community. And if you're unable to do that, I know in 2 years there will be another administration to come that will. Thank you.
Powerful stuff. Maybe you should become part of that administration.
We'll see.
There's an announcement. I hope you'll make it here.
Oh, thank you.
No, that's wonderful. I'm very, very well said. Because ultimately, it really comes down to that just fundamental level of human decency that we expect from our leadership.
Correct.
And that seems to be something that's absent in a lot of places in Rhode Island right now. Just a fundamental respect for human decency.
Absolutely.
That's not a liberal concern, a progressive concern, a Democratic, Republican concern. That's just folks live together under difficult circumstances, trying to do the best we can as we all go on this little journey of ours. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.